Allowing more steel imports would depress domestic steel prices and harm domestic steel manufacturers. Since the present government will not do anything that would harm the domestic steel industry, it will not lift restrictions on steel imports. The pattern of reasoning in the argument above is most similar to that in which one of the following? So first, let's find the pattern of reasoning in the original argument. They're basically saying, okay, if we do this thing, if we allow more steel imports, let's call that A, that would depress domestic steel prices and harm domestic steel manufacturers. So that would cause some harm. Let's call that B. Since the present government will not do anything that would harm the domestic steel industry, so they're saying since B won't happen, so not B, because of that, it will not lift restrictions on steel imports. So they're saying not A, right? So this pattern of reasoning, let me write the not the other direction. Okay, this pattern of reasoning makes sense, right? This second conditional is just the contrapositive of the first one. Okay, so let's try to find an answer choice that mirrors this in its reasoning. A, building construction increases only when people are confident that the economy is doing well. Therefore, since people are now confident in the economy, we can expect building construction to increase. So the reasoning in this answer choice, right? Building economy increases only when people are confident. A would be the building construction increases. And then B would be everything after the word only, when people are confident that the economy is doing well. So in the second sentence, they're saying, well, people are confident right now. So they're saying B, so we can expect A. Is this the same pattern of reasoning that we saw up here? Not quite, right? So we can cross out A. There isn't a flaw in the reasoning for the original, but there is a flaw in the reasoning for A, right? If we know that if A, then B, do we then know that if B, then A? Not necessarily, right? So this is flawed reasoning, whereas the original was not. B, since workers are already guaranteed the right to a safe and healthful workplace by law, there's no need for the government to establish further costly health regulations for people who work all day at computer terminals. So B is saying, well, since A, then B, right? There's really only one conditional statement here. So can this really mirror what we have in the original? Not really, right? So B is also probably not our answer choice, right? A here would be everything from since all the way to this comma, right? And then B would be everything after the comma. There is no need for the government to establish further regulations. So B is also not our answer. Let's take a look at C. In countries that have deregulated their airline industry, many airlines have gone bankrupt. Since many companies in other transportation industries are in weaker economic condition than were those airlines, deregulating other transportation industries will probably result in bankruptcies as well. Okay, I believe C has more than two letters involved, right? We're probably going to have to write out an A, B, and C. There seems to be a lot going on. Let's see. So for these countries, many airlines have gone bankrupt. Another difference that I'm seeing with C is that they use the words many, right? And they're also using the word probably here. And so already that's a little bit different because with those words, we might not be able to write the same conditional statements that we were able to write for some of the other ones. So that's also an issue. Words like many, some, most, they mean something different than when you don't see those words, right? So just based off of that, and also looking at, the fact that they're talking about more than two things here, right? In countries that have done this, many airlines have gone bankrupt. Even if we were to write out conditional statements, right? The first sentence would already involve two things. They're talking about countries that have done something, and then airlines have gone bankrupt in those countries. And then they talk about many companies in other transportation industries. So that's another new thing that they're bringing up. So that would have to be a C, right? So this is also not our answer. Let's take a look at D. the chief executive officer of Silicon Inc. will probably not accept stock in the company as a bonus next year, since next year's tax laws will require companies to pay a new tax on stock given to executives. So again, they use the word probably here, which is talking about likelihood, which is a little bit concerning. And also, this is kind of saying, okay, this probably won't happen because of this other thing, right? So they're saying, like, if A, then probably B, right? That's only one statement. Does that mirror what we originally had? Not quite, right? That's, D is a little bit more similar to B even. So D is not our answer probably as well. So it's probably going to be E. Let's take a look at E. The installation of bright floodlights on campus would render the astronomy department's telescope useless. The astronomy department will not support any proposal that would render its telescope useless. It will therefore not support proposals to install bright floodlights on campus. Okay, this is similar in structure to the original, right? So they're saying, okay, if we install these bright floodlights on campus, if A, right, then they're saying that would render the telescope useless. So that would be B, rendering the telescope useless. The astronomy department would not support any proposal that would render its telescope useless. So it's not gonna do B, which is rendering the astronomy department's telescope useless. And that means, right, it will therefore, so based off of that, not support the proposals, right, to install bright floodlights on campus. So they're not going to install bright floodlights on campus. So that would mean not A, right? And this here, this pattern of reasoning exactly mirrors what we had here, right? If A, then B. If not B, then not A. That's the same exact pattern of reasoning we had there. So E would be our answer here.